Hello, everyone. We know what will happen if I just enter the LinkedIn webinar account. Can we check?
I am in the webinar. The webinar says it's starting soon, but we might have a buffer.
It's starting soon, it says.
Mhm.
Okay. I've entered the URL and the streaming key, but nothing changed, I guess.
Well, there are a couple options, right? We could either just do it, just talk about it. If it's on your YouTube, it'll be preserved. Or we could try and treat it as a smoke test and reschedule if you want to.
Uh, let's give ourselves like 5 to 10 minutes. Let's try it again. Um,
Okay.
let's see what will happen. Webinar görünmüyor mu? Hı hı. It will be weird if we are on live today.
That's all right though. It's a first one, and we could
It says start for server started. Check. Bakabilir miyim?
I wonder if the YouTube is up. You think it's called Comparative Digital Game Law, maybe? Live. I wonder what Berna's YouTube handle is. Probably should have asked.
Niye bu kadar zor ya? Oraya filtremizle. Az önceki şuradaki yayınları yönetsin desek. Hazır olduğunuzda canlı yayına tıklayın diyor. Benimki ekran nerede? Canlı yayına başla var bak burada. Benimki ekran nerede? Linkleri bana verdiğin. O da duruyor mu burada? Az önceki. Şu. Tamam, canlı yayına başla diyeceksin. Hı. Ha, okey. Oraya filtremizle. Az önceki şuradaki canlı yayını senden yapabiliyor. Bu olsun. Kişiler de sana yapıyor. Hazır olduğunuzda canlı yayına tıklayın diyor. Benimki ekran nerede? Canlı yayına başla var bak burada. Benimki ekran nerede? Linkleri bana verdiğin. O da duruyor mu burada? Tamam, ben de. Tamam, canlı yayına başla diyeceksin. Okay. We have begun now, officially, I guess.
Okay. Is this being
And
streamed to
people
your
are
YouTube
doing-
channel as well? Oh, hey.
Yes, we are. Okay. I can hear my own voice now.
Yes, active. I can see it.
Yes, active. Great. Okay.
Although currently you're streaming the webinar.
Benimki ekran nerede? Canlı yayına
website.
başla var bak burada. Yes, we have begun. Okay, we have interesting conversations that started. Okay, we
We'll
have
probably
begun
need to
now,
swap
actually,
over the
I
screen.
guess.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Is this being streamed to
people
your YouTube
actually,
channel as Okay, well? cool. I can see my
yes,
face. I
yes,
can see your
actually,
face.
great. I can hear myself from it. Now we're fine.
I
Great.
think what one last thing before we get started, I'd love to see your face side by side with me so that you're not just like a tiny window.
Like that's fine. How do I do that though?
Go ahead and hover over your panel.
Automatic. I think this one, right? No, nothing changed.
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. This one and this one. No. Mm,
I have like a minute delay on the feed, so I can't tell you right away if it worked. Maybe adjust view. So if you go down to where there's the red hang up logo, there's the three dot burger
I
icon.
know the adjust view button, but um, it doesn't change it. It always shows me. It doesn't
Hmm,
change. Mm-hmm.
that's odd. If you go to adjust view one more time.
I can show it myself and yes. Now I did it. Now I did it. It's fine. We can start now.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, thank you everyone for waiting while we figure out technical difficulties because LinkedIn Live is confusing, but we're here now and thank you for joining us. Berna reached out to me over DMs to talk about Turkish gaming law, and I was really fascinated by everything she had to say. And she graciously set up this webinar for all of us to just kind of chat about what the new regulations are around gaming, but specifically in Turkey. So, as we get started with this, we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves and maybe talk a little bit about how we want to run the webinar, and then we'll get into it all. So, go ahead, Berna, take it away. Who are you?
Thank you, everyone. Um, I am head of TMT law department in Özel Law, and also a huge gamer. Like I do gaming streams almost 2-3 times every week, and I have been playing games since I was a little kid, and it is my greatest hobby. It has been my greatest hobby all the time. So, and I am a technology lawyer, technology, media, telecommunications to be exact, for around 14 years. And now the digital game law actually is the most interesting and the most personal topic for me. In all these technology law years, privacy is important for me, yes, but gaming is another level. So this regulations are very important to me, but in a personal level. So while these regulations are being enacted, I wanted to make a webinar and analyze this law with other gamers because only the gamers can personally connect with it. And Tess is such a gamer, and actually, I make Tess um, in another event um, for the Privacy Innovation Lab, and in that event, Tess was actually a dungeon master.
Yes. That's
Um,
what I moonlight as. I do my TTRPGs on the side, but my full day job is as a lawyer. I'm a founding attorney of Cause and Effect. I help out creators and game dev studios and even some platforms make things in an era where it's hostile, actively hostile to making things. But I'm really happy to be here to talk about more gaming regulations boy, there has been a lot of them just this year, and hearing about what Turkey is doing is super interesting and different from the way the rest of the world has typically handled all of this. We have privacy connection, so obviously we were talking about GDPR once it was launched. Happy 10th year anniversary, GDPR. You've done it, you've stuck around this long. But even after that, we started seeing a lot of regulations come out and talk about how we're going to save the children and what kind of restrictions need to be involved in order to have more proactive obligations for studios and publishers, developers and platforms when it comes to handling kids' data. But that's the whole age assurance thing is going to be something we're going to talk about later on after we get through what Turkey is doing. As for this webinar, we'd love if this could be a conversation. If you have any questions and you want to put them in the comments, we'll be reading through those occasionally. So please let us know at any time if you'd like us to tangent into another area of law. I know we're set to go for around 2 hours today, which means we have about an hour and 40 minutes of content for you. And we're going to try and save some time for questions at the end as well. Anything else that we wanted to really bring up as a topic before we dive in?
Not other topics, I guess.
Okay.
So we can just start in.
Yeah, what the heck is happening with Turkey?
I mean, the Turkey is actually, in a political sense, has published it this year as a family year. So, which means there are regulations about children and family, moral values, and etc. So these are like sensitive grounds to stand on, right?
Mhm.
And that is why these gaming is actually one of the hot topics as well. Because, children play a lot of games. We play a lot of games, but children do so as well. And if people aren't gamers and aren't into games, it is a very distant topic. Because for people who did not or who does not play games or video games, um, controlling a character and doing things is like they're associating with the personality of a person, but it's not actually that. It's just a game, like a board game. So since they don't understand it, they fear it, and that is why the some families can be very aggressive in their demands. I mean, they will just be happy if the video games will all over be prohibited. They won't care about it. Okay, my children is safe. My children are safe now. No, it is an entirely different topic. But thanks to some stakeholders, scholars, and also TOGET, which is the Turkey Game Developers Association, they have made very important progress in that. And finally, the law isn't still as we hoped, but it went in a more warm direction, I can say.
So
Um,
this new Turkish digital gaming law, it is getting enacted soon or today, right? It was just signed and enacted into action. Is that correct?
not today, but very recently, like a couple of days ago. It is enacted. I mean, it's passed the commission and the National Assembly. So the only thing we are waiting is that it's official publishing in the official gazette. When it's published, um, the um, the stakeholders will have, like, game developers and platforms will have 6 months to comply.
And how long has this been under review? How long have you been watching this unfold?
I think it's been a hot topic and it has been reviewed for around 4 months. So now 3 to 4 months. No, not 4. 3 months, actually. Yes, it has been discussed for around 3 months. It has been a very hot topic, and it's enacted really, really fast.
Yeah, 4 months to go from bill to act is certainly a record-breaking, at least by American standards, so it's crazy to see how quickly that came about, and because this is family-centric, I imagine it came with a lot of red tape too. But before we get into obligations, what exactly is the threshold? Like, who does this apply to? Like, what are we looking for numerically?
We are looking for a threshold of 100,000 daily users for some requirements. But all the game developers actually are subject to a rating system. It's regardless of their daily usage. The platform requirements, on the other hand, like opening up a representatives in Turkey, subject to 100,000 threshold. So the most important developments in this and most important laws that's been enacted is first the rating system, which is mandatory. Uh, I think it's interesting because I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the other countries, rating system like the PG ratings and the SRB ratings that we are used to are self-descriptive, right?
Often, you'll have to submit your game to an international board that effectively gives you a questionnaire, and then you, game developer, answer the things on the questionnaire that then get your rating, but it's not strictly required to release your game without or with a rating. And it sounds like Turkey's changing this so that there is a rating by default, even if you don't submit for one. What is that default, by the way? Is it
It's 18
one for
plus.
everyone? 18 plus.
Like if you just publish if you just developed a Hello Kitty Adventures game and you forget to make a Turkish rating, then it will be an 18 plus Hello Kitty Adventures
18
game.
plus Hello Kitty adventure game, right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
by default, it sounds like Turkey's going with the most restrictive aspect of the rating system, and that's to prevent children from accessing it in the first
Yes,
place.
yes,
It's
yes, exactly.
I know we're gonna talk about age assurance and all the things that we're doing to protect the children a little bit later, but my brain is just wanting to discuss this, like, tangent. A lot of the regulations, specifically the online safety acts that are across the world talk about how to segment spaces for children. Normally, some kind of parental authorization that gets involved there too. When Turkey thinks about safe spaces for kids online and in digital gaming, what does that normally look like? Like, what are the restrictions? Because I know some tangential regulations would say things like there's no friends list, so they can't be contacted by people who are outside of their age demographic. There's no direct messaging or open chat features on the game. Are you seeing similarities with the kind of limitations that Turkish law is putting on the developers?
Um, Not exactly. The rating is mostly it's about mostly in ratings and it's about publishing the ratings, but also there will be some obligations about actually how to determine the ratings and exactly other obligations that the game developers and game publishers should comply with. Now, this is think of this law as actually a framework law, which is providing the main requirements in this. First, they want uh, they want the mandatory rating period, which is the most important thing for them. The second most important thing is for them to establish a representative here. And the third important thing is that they have some control over the published content. So actually, they can request some, information about algorithms, their IT systems, their infrastructures, and etc., or their data processing systems,
Mhm.
and um, and also to identify some um, penalties for that. So they make the framework, and they identify the details in the secondary regulations, which is how the technology law works in Turkey mostly. Actually, I mean, um, for the data protection law, well, it was mostly clear, but the secondary regulations had very important details. For the internet law, the regulation had much more details. And the recent technology law, like the payment systems law, the electronic communications law, e-commerce law, every single one of them has put a general framework and then left everything to secondary regulations. It was the same with crypto sets. Um, it was the same with it is the same with cybersecurity. We are still waiting for the secondary legislations. So let's put the framework and let's put it to public, and then we can think about secondary regulations later, which how technology regulations work in Turkey. It's the same for this. But it is still quite restrictive for the platforms and developers, even if it's current condition.
Yeah, that and before we move too quickly past that, I'm curious. We normally don't see regulations talk about the different types of people that they're looking to regulate. Generally, it's all businesses within threshold, right? Or
Hmm.
anyone accessing a certain threshold of information. For this, we're seeing things like developer, publisher, platform be specifically named. Can you talk about what that means as far as obligation allocation to different types of people?
Well, we have the proposal version is a bit different than the latest version, which has been changed with the stakeholder contributions. But interestingly, we compared to I think other laws in the around the world, we have actually game developer. I mean the game
Ga
distributor and the game provider definitions. Um,
Okay.
it is more separated, I think, in the last versions, like their platform definition and the developer definition and etc., which is a bit more different, I think, in the latest version, which we will see in the when it's published in the official gazette. But in its current version, we have game definition, actually the definition of game under law, and the game developer, I mean the game provider, and the game distributor definitions, which is a bit more different.
So outside of that 100K threshold, how do obligations differ from distributor to platform or distributor to developer?
Um, well, the distributor is most like distributor is the one that the regulators want control over. So, because if they want to prohibit
And
something, or if they want to, have some restrictions and have some control, it is easier to control, platforms and developers. So
yeah, so when
the
we talk about distributor, then we're looking at the Steams and the Roblox of the world. Is that correct?
yes, the distributor includes platforms and as well as the regular distributors, like the game producers, like how can I say, EA, for instance, is a
Mhm.
distributor.
Like a
Ubisoft is a
AAA
distributor.
studio.
Yeah, AAA studio. They have game developers under them, but they do
Mhm.
not develop the game. They distribute it to platforms, and the platforms
Okay.
publish it. So the distributor is like a more wide definition in that sense. I think it changed. I think the platform is defined this, and the distributor is defined different separately. But we will see. But currently, in the proposal version, the distributor will be the platforms and the distributors. So we can say that it encompasses the entire gaming ecosystem.
It's pretty wild to see them be so specific about it, and it makes sense from just an enforcement standpoint that platforms and publishers would get the most amount of heat, considering that they have the widest exposure to the user base themselves. I don't think any single game developer or indie studio is really going to be able to meet that 100K daily threshold of Turkish players. They might if it becomes a very successful game, but having these obligations front loaded on sites and platforms that are releasing the games would be a much better choke point if I were an enforcer.
Yes. I mean, not all the regulators, not all the laws, not all the rules are imposed on 100,000 ones, but the
Mhm.
100,000 threshold will be
The EU,
um,
the representative, that's
for for the representative regulation. They need to establish a representative in Turkey, so which is the basic one. And if they do not establish a representative, or they do not comply with other obligations, there are severe penalties. Um,
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about sanctions, because that's always the most terrifying part of it, right? When GDPR came out and they're like 4% gross profit, annual gross profit. That scared a lot of companies into compliance. We saw Europe do kind of the same thing with their AI Act, saying, all right, ratchet it up 6%, 6% of gross. So, what are we looking at as far as fines are concerned? And what are the other more innovative ways that the Turkish law is trying to enforce this compliance obligation?
well, Turkish law is unique in one sort of technology law sanction, which before came with the internet law. But before we go into that, let's talk about the administrative penalties, because
Sure.
it's a leveled sanction. So first, if they fail to comply with the law, they will notify them the information and technology just information
ICT.
and technology communication service. Yes, ICTA will notify them, and then when they are notified, they will have 30 days to comply. If they do not comply with it within 30 days, then they will have a penalty from 1 million to 10 million Turkish liras.
Oh, it came down. I thought it was 10 million to 30 million. Was that in the initial proposal?
No, it continues. It's the second level.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of
Yes.
myself. Okay. 1 million to 10 million. Got
First
it.
1 million to 10 million.
Mhm.
Then they will have another 30 days. And if they do not comply with the another 30 days, they will have 10 million to 30 million
Okay, 10
penalty.
million to 30 million. All right. I did
Yes.
I did I did the calculation for US listeners. That's about $6.6 million dollars at the 30 million mark. We can continue.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. Yes, around, yeah, I think so. Around 5 to 6 million. Um, and after uh, the second penalty, then comes the most unique penalty. If they do not comply with it yet, another 30 days, then they will have bandwidth narrowing, bandwidth
This ba
throttling.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
bandwidth
bandwidth
throttling.
throttling that you mentioned at the first time you told me about this was wild to me, because what does that effectively mean for anybody who's going to be delivering their game? If your bandwidth is throttled, at what percentage does it make it unplayable? And I know that they are playing with percentages here, so go
Yes,
go
it's
for it.
interesting. First, it was 50% to 90%. Then
Mhm.
the latest information say in the latest version, it will be started from 30% and will end up in 50%. Well, 90% is basically an access ban. It will make it completely inaccessible for anyone. So it's no different from an access ban. So it's slower. But I think 50% is critical for games. I mean, because you download games, you play the games online, and most of them requires connection to platforms. And this penalty is also is for anyone, like the developers and the developers and the platforms. So this means even with the bandwidth throttling as 30%, you can't play an online game.
Right, esports players in Turkey are effectively out of luck, right? If the game isn't in compliance or the platform isn't in compliance, then how are they even going to have the kind of upload download speeds that they need to compete?
Exactly. They will have like abysmal milliseconds. They won't be able to complete. So it's critical. And we have very successful esports teams, and they are going up in the world. And are actually the developers are an important. We have some of our very most important unicorns are actually game developers and game companies like Peak Games. They're sold for millions of dollars. So it's a big contribution to the economy. So they shouldn't be this much restricted. I think these economic facts actually cause them to take a step back. So
So the
also,
initial the initial restriction was 50 to 90. So now we've landed at 30 to 50. And 50% is still exceptionally significant, depending, of course, on whether or not your game is live play or how critical the persistent internet access needs to be to play the game, right?
yes, exactly. I mean, it's
How
more
did
important since we most of the servers are in the EU, and well, Steam has servers in Turkey, but for most
Mhm.
games and platforms, you will have servers in the EU, and the bandwidth throttling makes even more important, so it will affect even more when you're connecting from another country.
How does extraterritoriality work with the ISPs that are in other countries? Do Turkish regulators go to another country and say, "Hey, server provider, these are our non-compliant tenants within your data center who need rate throttling"? Like, what is the process? Do you know?
Well, I can say from the law number 5651, which is the internet law. Um, the internet law is actually the one started law. I mean, the bandwidth throttling has first started
Mm,
with the internet law. First, the bandwidth throttling first was not a sanction, but it was like it was applied without any grounds in the law. In politically critical events in Turkey, social-political critical events, when they want to block the social media, actually they applied bandwidth throttling. We knew it, but there wasn't any, there wasn't any legal clause that allowed them to do that, but they did it anyway. So the bandwidth throttling started that way. They were quite familiar with it, and they implemented it in the social media law, which is also the same law, the internet law. The game law changes also will be within the scope of the same law, the internet law. So the internet laws, bandwidth throttling started with social media companies. They wanted the biggest social media, which is more than 10 million daily users. The biggest
mhm.
social media providers were required to establish representatives in Turkey. So, but when the countries are located abroad, as you can guess, it is quite difficult to enforce a penalty. So they found a way. First, uh, let's administer an administrative penalty if they don't comply. Then we can go with the ad restrictions, which is also important part of social media platforms. Well, the game platforms don't have ads like social media platforms have, so we don't have ad restrictions here. But they will have ad restrictions, then the bandwidth throttling, and it was also leveled, and it was up to 90% as well. So I think Twitter was latest to comply and was doing a platform that was implemented bandwidth throttling, and then they opened a representative after that as well. So it's for implementing penalty, having a point of contact, in Turkey and etc. But these are usually handled with virtual offices, and like mm, like so-called presences here.
Mhm.
But they will nonetheless, there will be a company within the scope of the law, so they can make some implementations and they can reach the social media platforms quickly this way. Because at least the companies that are established here need to receive and reply to communication. So this way they will be able to reach the social media platforms more easier and they can force their hands more. So just within the same context, I think the game platforms, if they establish a Turkish presence here, um, it won't be much different than the social media platforms. They will just open a, virtual office here, and they will be able to receive communications and extra. But yes, so no, it started from the social media law, and
Mhm.
how do they contact it? They contact it via these representatives. And some of the social media platforms, public policy teams employ a one-to-one communication line with the ICTA, Information and Communication Technologies Authority, and they provide the court orders and their decisions in these hotlines. So when they receive these hotlines, they can go into their legal reviews and the compliance and the extra much more quickly. So it will be implemented in the same way, I guess. I mean, we all know that it is very difficult for them to enforce administrative penalties in a company located abroad. So therefore, we have bandwidth throttling because you can implement bandwidth throttling via the access providers ISPs here. So when they implement it, then you will lose lots of gamers and profit and etc. So um,
Is it only bandwidth throttling towards Turkish users, or is it bandwidth throttling across the platform? Because I imagine other servers within, I don't know, let's say Virginia, would be immune to this kind of request. Is that yeah?
yes, I mean, if it's of course, yes, if of course, and it's Turkey. The bandwidth throttling is usually applied. The ICTA contacts the ISPs. They have
Mhm.
ISP communication lines and say, we have a bandwidth throttling decision. Make this bandwidth throttling, and they implement the bandwidth throttling. They contact all the ISPs, and they have grave sanctions and penalties, even the license revocations if they fail to comply with the official request. So they can they will have to comply. So whichever ISP you have, you will have spent shopping. Some may get later than the other because of the time that it requires, but you will eventually get it.
That's really fascinating. Thank you for going through that. And thank you for also touching on the existing kind of regulatory action. Because I remember when we first talked about this, you were telling me the efforts they took against Steam. And I thought that was really fascinating. Could you just briefly give us a historical review of everything that's happened with Steam?
Well, I mean, the Steam is fine, but they have taken some action against Roblox and Discord.
Ah, sorry, Roblox and Discord. Steam is on the chopping
Yes,
block. My bad. Continue
yes, Steam is fine right now. Right now, though, after
for now.
this regulation comes, we will see. Um, Roblox and um, Discord is access banned in Turkey. It's a bandwidth throttled. They're access banned completely.
Meaning you can't log on to Discord, you can't use Roblox currently in
No,
Turkey.
no. It's due to a political climate. We have a law. I mean, in the internet law, we have a clause which is called Article 8A. And in the Article 8A, gives the ICTA and the public prosecutor in the courts the opportunity to access ban based on protection of national security, national health, extra. So, due to protection of national security and national health and the protection of people and the protection of children, extra, and they banned Discord and Roblox because there are some violent events conducted by children in Turkey, mostly red pill and incel societies, as you can guess.
Hmm.
And then, due to these events, uh, since these people communicated through Discord, in Discord servers, they banned Discord. But the more detail about it is they told Discord that you should expand these. And they said, we are not a social media platforms, we are communication platforms. So people are free to open up uh, channels within Discord. This is the how our platform works. And they can connect to one of our servers with these channels. But these channels will be private to the people who are members of it who have links. So it's like a communication platform sub channels, but not exactly like a content that uh, we can control. So we aren't able to do anything about it. We have rules and extra. We can ban users, but we can't control channels. So they can open up in channels and people can jump in, hop onto Discord. This is a technical thing. This is how
Mhm.
the software is built. And they couldn't convince the regulators, so they could not come to a mutual arrangement where they can prevent people to these harmful societies communicate through Discord. Then it will stay banned. So basically, as that Roblox is similar. I mean, they there were some complaints about. We all know this happens in Roblox. There were some complaints about pedophile communication, pedophile actions, actually. But uh, this is against the first. This is against the core of the internet law. I mean, the internet law, but there are hosting providers. Also, hosting providers are not required to, check for illegal content and um, then they make
Yeah.
action. They need to do things after they're warned. It's like a notice and takedown procedure. They need to comply with that because it's impossible. There are millions and millions of content. They can control all of them. It's against the hosting provider. And we all know the hosting providers laws started with like peer-to-peer systems and the torrents and etc. That
Mhm.
those shaped the law, and we all know that these were just platforms. The platforms just provide the means. You can put legal content in there, and you can put illegal content in there. We all know that the Google Drive is legal. I mean, it's Google Drive, but you can put illegal content in Google Drive because it's software, but it's noticed. Google takes it down. So it's the same as that. Um, you have a cupboard. The cupboard shouldn't become illegal because you put drugs in it. I mean, it's the same. It's the same idea. It should be the same idea.
I love
Roblox.
that analogy.
Thank you.
It's similar here in the United States as well. I mean,
Mhm.
our Telecommunications Act, Section 230, this is we call it the 13 words that built the internet, right? And it's disclaiming platform liability for what the users post on that platform. Unless, of course, with exceptions, right? Unless they're encouraging it, then there's no direct liability for what the users are doing there. It's silly to see that kind of imposed on Discord and maybe even Roblox to some extent. But there's no human power that exists in this world that would allow you to moderate every single channel, every message, every server that the users would create and ensure that it was legal to the standards that are globally appropriate. That's it's kind of a ludicrous premise. But
Yes, exactly. I mean, our law is the same, but
mhm.
when they can't comply due to a technical difficulty or the technical, formation of the provider, then they can ban the user and they ban the users. So it's fine. But why would they require something that can't be done? And yes, Roblox can be dangerous for some people, but it is also a great platform for indie developers, solo developers to publish their content.
Mhm.
And why would you ban something like it? I mean, it's like banning everything instead of trying to control it in the most appropriate way. I mean, it's against the freedom of expression and the freedom of art. I think it's considered globally. I think there were some court decisions all around the world about the internet law and the social media law where they tried to implement these restrictions.
Mhm.
Restrictions in games and restrictions in contents. Uh, you are not just it's not just against freedom of expression, but it's also against freedom of art and freedom of science. Games are a form of art, so they should be protected
Yeah.
in the within the scope of the freedom of art. Um,
These
so
kind of regulations always have me curious as to when children are granted the right to contribute to society. Not in the sense of like them getting a job, but them engaging with the internet and their peers on in an online forum. Because as someone who comes from a country that says they value free speech. I would think that that right to speak your mind exists before you turn 18. But a lot of countries aren't seeing it that way. I'm thinking specifically of Australia's online safety amendment, their social media minimum age act that came out that effectively told everybody under the age of 16 you're not allowed to engage with social media anymore. They weren't able to use Facebook or Instagram, and it's a much different perspective from the way Turkey is putting this kind of obligation on platforms by way of assuming that they're encouraging illicit behavior, as opposed to a country saying anybody under the age of 16 can't use the internet anymore, or at least not the portions of the internet that would allow you to connect. What do you, how do you feel about that divide and distinction?
well, the interesting part is not for the game platforms, but in the latest amendments, one of the amendments that's discussed is making a 15-year threshold to use social media to kids in
It's coming
Turkey.
for the world. I
Yeah, it's coming for the world, exactly. And the most interesting, I mean, this is not the discussion of this webinar, but since you asked, I will just implement a small addition to it, which is
Okay.
interesting. Um since we also have some time. um, the interesting part is where these are regulated in the other countries, it's suggested with some privacy enhanced verification solutions, right? In Turkey, this is recommended with via connection to the e-government system. This means the e-government system are the system for every nationals to connect, where they handle their transactions and complaints and anything that's governmental and that's within the law online. So the verification via connection there. This means that it will take your identification number,
Mhm.
know who you are,
Mhm.
and any content you want to access. For instance, if I want to access, I'm 37 years old. I mean, I look that way, but I'm 37 years old. But but for instance, I'm over the all the legal ages right now. And if I want to access, for instance, let's say an erotic game,
Mhm.
um, I wouldn't want anyone to see it. Maybe I'm downloading just to see how interesting it is. Maybe just I'm enjoying it, who knows? But when I do it, I don't want other people to know. And when you do it with this age verification method, you will know that everyone knows that you will access it. And but it's not in the games. It's not in the games, but it's just an analogy. But for the social media, that means a destruction of anonymity. I mean,
Yeah. 100%. Hey, listen, listen. This is part of our webinar was talking about age verification just in general and the global
Mhm.
compliance nightmare that is a storm coming for everyone who's operating on the internet, right? Because it's not just
Mhm,
Turkey, it's
mhm.
not just Australia. UK has their Online Safety Act that they're trying to embed. California has its Age Appropriate Design Code Act, where it's taking even more strenuous measures than the UK. And Brenna, you and I are privacy people. So when we hear, oh, I have to provide more documentation to prove who I am, I barely trust the security measures that are in place right now. And encouraging this by way of regulation means that it's now an obligation that the platforms and publishers have to consider when new user are using the features on said platforms. That means every single one of them, every single social media site is going to have their own way of verifying who you are and how old you are. I know that there's been some talk, some chatter in the United States about putting this obligation on the device builders, so the operating systems on your computer, so like Windows and Apples of the world would have to be the ones that actually take your ID documentation so that you have your computer or your device registered to you. But aren't we already doing that? Do we need more information provided when fingerprinting is already an active process or when our federal documents are already archived in a register? Be the government for me just for a moment, Berna. How would you implement something like this? Would you implement it at all?
I mean, if I was a government,
Yeah,
I would want to implement it.
you wouldn't.
No, I would want to implement it. I mean, governments
Oh,
would want
really?
to implement it. I mean, I am a privacy pro. For me, if I don't put myself in government's shoes, I wouldn't implement it. But other than that, the governments, of course, would want to implement it because they can identify dissidents easily this way. For instance, if they
When
want to access someone like causes a social stir, they can identify these people easily.
Boy, I
Um,
would love to have their social security number and their username in one handy document, says the government.
yes, yes, exactly. They would want that. I mean, they would want more information. Every government wants more information. For instance, you know that NSA wanted more information, which created the privacy crisis at the first place.
Mhm, mhm. It just it just feels like we're going backwards because all of like, California and Europe created their privacy laws fairly early on, and now they're the first to implement age assurance or age verification obligations, which seems anathema to the privacy concern that arose in the first place. When platforms have to control their age assurance controls, now we're talking about more data collection on their behalf. Maybe they're the ones collecting it directly. Maybe they're working with a third party that collects it for them. I know our government works with a third party that collects it for them. And that creates a man in the middle issue and so many other concerns that I suppose I shouldn't tangent off too long. Hey, any of you watching this, if you also dislike age assurance and age verification laws, please let us know in the comments. Well, okay. I think we dug into the Turkish law that's emerging, and I've even peppered in a couple of things that came to mind as we're talking.
Yes, I think I can wait a second. I wanted to check the comments, so I heard my own.
I know the second part we're going to focus on international regulatory context, which you've been getting pieces of here and there. So I'll do
Mhm.
my best to fill in the blanks where I haven't already mentioned something. But before we do that, Berna, do we have any cool comments that we can shout out?
We have comments that one say hello, hello, and the other
Hi.
we have the part on gaming will be effective within 6 months. Yes, it will be
Mhm.
effective within 6 months once it's published in the official gazette. Uh, we we have discussed in the first part, and so the critical point is that uh, ICTA is authorized for further clarification, which is a new field for it. Yes, it can require further clarification, and we can come into that this topic as well, which is quite interesting actually, and it's quite related to what we discuss. Um, well, this age verification and who enters the social media, the government will know about it, and etc. It's not, but the gaming platforms are separated from the social media platforms in our law, which appears to be in this way. I don't know if it will be
Mhm.
considered in the judicial decisions that they may be within the scope of social media providers. I don't know. It's not certain yet, but they have an authority to ask from game providers and game distributors information such as uh, like I have mentioned that if you can maybe remember like one sentence, they can ask their institutional infrastructures, their IT systems, their algorithms, their data processing mechanisms, and even their commercial approaches. They can ask all sorts of explanations from the game providers and game distributors, and and these stakeholders must provide these information and documents within 15 days.
15? 1
15
5?
days. Yes,
Oh,
one
no.
five. 15
I
days.
suppose I suppose that's slightly more reasonable than a 72-hour data breach notification, requirement.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
But it's still not a lot of time, especially if you're going to have to come up with comprehensive answers for all of that. And this is different from the individual rights requests, right? That we would see through privacy regulation. It's not
Mhm.
user asking for information, it's the regulator asking for further clarification. Okay? It's
Yes,
important to know.
it's quite broad though. I mean, it's maybe more specific in the upcoming legislation, but it's one of the criticized laws. Maybe it will be removed or changed in the final version. I don't know, but it is quite interesting.
And it can be done unprompted, right? Because normally, the regulatory practice is you'd have a user complain to a regulator within their home country, and then that regulator would reach out to the business to get clarification at that point, right? This
No, it's
Turkish
just
hmm?
it's just anytime. Anytime,
The Turkish
if
one
they
is at
want
any
to.
time.
Yes, anytime if they want to just audit the compliance of the game developer or distributor. So
Have fun. Have fun for everyone.
yes, I mean it's one of the most criticized clauses. So like I said, it may be different in the final version, but it is what it is. And an interesting part when you said this is also not within the game law, but it's in the internet law. But I will say it because it is interesting. It's in the cybersecurity law actually. It's related to the internet. So the e-government, there were some rumors that our e-government system was breached. We don't know if these are true or not,
Mhm, mhm.
but there were some rumors about it. And finally, in the cybersecurity law, they implemented a clause which makes it a crime to give false information about whether the government systems are compromised or not.
I guess my follow-up question to that is under whose interpretation of falsity? We
Yes,
don't
I
know.
mean, how do they determine this falsity? Now, how it's
Mhm.
proved? We don't know. It's just one clause that makes it this way. I mean,
That's
yeah, that's interesting. So it doesn't, enforce the trust the government system. It actually lowers it. I think it's a bad idea. I'm not talking about this from a political point of view. I think it's a general point of view. Regardless of any opinion, it's a bad idea giving this clause, but because it lowers the confidence to the government systems. I mean, people can question why would they need such a clause.
there's an
Um,
inherent conflict of veracity, right? Like, if the government
mhm.
is the one that's going to penalize you for misinterpreting the government's triage and cybersecurity abilities, and then also be the one who determines whether or not their responsibilities and obligations are up to snuff, then yeah, there's an inherent conflict there, right? You have
It says like for the purpose of like it, it requires for you to do it on purpose,
mm,
but then again, who will determine that if it is in purpose or not, if it is in bad faith or not? I mean, it can be in good faith. Who knows? It can be just to provide news about it. Anyway, I mean, it's a
interesting.
completely different discussion, but I wanted to say it because it's very interesting.
No, that breaks my brain and I hate it. So thank you for making me aware of it so I can just, stew over something. All right. Okay. Let's move on into part 2. We talked a little bit about the things that I wanted to bring up throughout this part 2, which is the international regulatory context. There's a lot of other countries out there. And when I was first starting off as a privacy professional, one of the first questions I would always ask my clients is, "Hey, where is your company based? What products are you offering? Who's your customer? Where are your customers based?" Jurisdictional scope is important when you're writing privacy policies because it means I don't have to consider GDPR if we're not in Europe. I don't have to consider California if we're just marketing to Sweden. But for game devs and for very large platforms, including the publishers and other providers, their demographic is consistently global. So that means that we are just considering the world, the world and all of its various faceted regulations that it holds within it, because we don't know where the customers are going to come from. If the game does really well, then who knows? Maybe you're going to have over 100K daily users in Turkey, and then these laws become very, very relevant for you. What I always found interesting was picking a representative, especially for my US based companies. Their demographic is primarily in the United States, but if you want to comply with the GDPR, Article 27 says that you need to appoint a EU representative to receive requests from EU regulators. The UK also has a similar regulation, and Turkey, as you heard, has that regulation as well. Berna, if I am an international game studio that's based in the United States and I have all these representatives I have to appoint, can I just be done by putting someone in Turkey? Is that safe for me? I'll also answer with my own opinion, but I'm curious what you think.
I mean, you can't just be done with it. I mean, you will establish it, yes, but if you are providing games to Turkish people, then our law doesn't have a territorial scope definition, but it's
Mhm.
usually implemented in a way that if you provide service to Turkish people, then you are within the scope of the law. So if you're a big game platform or game studio that's providing content, providing games to people in Turkey, it will not be sufficient to just establish a Turkish company and be done with it. You will also need to comply with everything that's coming with it.
Right. And when you're appointing a regulator in the EU, normally what I advise for my clients is that they look at their spread and demographics. Where are they getting the most traffic from? If you're not hitting those threshold numbers or it's not otherwise required by a law, then typically the appointment is fairly easy because, as Berna mentioned before, there's always going to be a middleman who rises up to satisfy this. When GDPR came out and we were thinking about placing EU representatives in their respective countries. It was pretty messy that first year. And even to this day, I'd say that there's not a lot of people complying with that specific aspect of the GDPR, but I do my best to make sure that my clients do. And what it looks like is that you go through a third party who has a fancy virtual mailbox that can receive requests from any regulators that are within the area and send it back over to you. Because really, what the regulators are looking for is a physical presence within that country that they can access, who can speak the language and can refer these notices back to you, the business. Same,
Yes,
same for
exactly.
Turkey.
Yeah, same. They just want a presence for easier communication, and I mean, they can make official notifications this way, and then after they're notified, I mean, even if it's just a virtual point, that virtual points also convey these requests to the relevant parties. So they can have much easier communication, much faster communication this way, and they don't get unresponsive. As an example, from one of my clients and from our clients, Silicon Valley client,
Mhm.
which doesn't have a Turkish, doesn't have a Turkish presence. Um, I mean, which has a Turkish presence, but the the search engines aren't like social media providers, so they don't, they're not obligated to open up a representative and etc. So they need to reach the data protection authority next to need to reach the global company for just
Mhm.
search engine related requests. So when they do that, uh, they send a notification via international notification laws and channels and etc. Or they send mail to these companies, and it can take up to 2 months to reach them. So it's not a fast method. I mean, if they are located abroad, they just have difficulties. I mean, they write to the info mails that they provide and etc.
Mhm.
And it is just lost in all those mails that are sent to this general communication channel and etc. So, or they have some public policy representatives, for instance, they contact these public policy representatives and say, we have a problem like this, could you convey it to them? And they say, yes, sure. They discuss it inwards, but the government doesn't have any response. So they get curious and, okay, did they just ignore us? And
Well, they only have 15 days to respond, so they better not
yes,
ignore you.
so it's just everything would get lost in the process of contacting the foreign companies. So they just implemented these measures to prevent this. Um, so yeah, I can say a virtual point of contact is sufficient.
And luckily for companies currently, you've got 6 to 12 months to implement, right? Because enforcement is going to likely start 6 months after it gets registered in the Gazette, right?
Uh, it, they will have 6 months to comply, and after it's registered in the Gazette, so they will have 6 months. I think because it's enacted, it can come out in a minute. But I think 6 months, I mean, is not sufficient at all.
Why do you say
Um,
that?
I mean, uh, well, a game developer. Think of all the game platforms that have over 100,000 people, so
Mhm.
100,000 daily users. I mean, most of the game platforms, to be honest, have this. I think even the GOG has it. Like they have a weird interface, but I think they have more than that.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
would
I don't
agree
know.
that they're
I don't
past the
know.
threshold.
I haven't made research, but most likely the any platform that we can think of, I think, has 100,000 threshold. Um, well, they need to first find a lawyer, uh, like FTI lawyer, and they will just okay, how we will establish this company? They will establish this company according to Turkish laws. They will implement communication channels and etc. Blah 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 blah. And I think there will be more there will be more requirements for these representatives to comply with, just like it was in the internet law. And with this, and they will need to comply with these requirements, and most likely they will need to prepare some reports and etc. There will be many requirements if it's at all similar to the internet law. So I think 6 months is not sufficient at all. So I think the reasonable period of amount time would be a year. But the regulators can extend these periods So we'll see about it. They usually prefer, I mean, 6 months is like a soft spot for the regulators usually in Turkey.
Mhm.
They choose 6 months and they see the progress of the sector. And if the progress is going slow, they make extensions. Usually they choose 6 months as a soft spot when they don't know which time would be the most appropriate.
A year makes sense to wind up, and I always maybe I should stop doing this, but I always try and give a bit of comfort to smaller studios that are setting up because likely you're not going to meet the threshold obligations that soon if you don't have anything released yet. Likely you won't be exposed to the same kind of dire platform obligations that, Steam or Epic or EA would be.
Mhm.
There are certainly there's it's always like the bigger fish in the pond sort of scenario. There are companies that regulators love making examples of, and they'll target them first. So, whilst there might be a short window for compliance here, know that you can shield yourself in the fallout by hiding behind those companies themselves.
Yes, I mean they have obligations, of course. The game developers have many obligations. I think an entire article close that's reserved for them. But
Mhm.
yes, you are true in that. I mean, we have social media law, and social media law has rules that apply to all social media providers. But all the social media providers, small, new companies, startups, new social media platforms, and etc., they just not visible because the visible due to the big companies being more visible. I think it will be the same with the game companies and the game sector as well.
So, I want to get to practical compliance tips, so that we can have some time for questions if there are any. So if you do have burning questions, please put them in the comments below, and we'll get to those at the end of the webinar. I would love to talk about how to navigate publishing agreements at this point. If I'm a developer and I know that these laws are incoming and I know that their publisher is going to bear the brunt of the obligations here, what should I look for in these publishing agreements? What should I ask for to ensure that I have minimal risk exposure here? Obviously, I need to comply with the law in my own special way, but what kind of slack do I want the publishers to pick up?
Um, I think I mean it is certain that there will be a 100,000 threshold and there will be a representative requirement. It is certain.
Hmm.
We don't know the details of it. It will most come likely with secondary legislation, but still, I think it's best to prepare establishing at least a virtual Turkish presence here right now. Um,
So we want the representative appointment responsibility to weigh on the publisher
yes, getting ready
at
for it
minimum.
for it
Mhm.
publisher. Yeah, it's getting ready for it. I mean, first identifying the daily user count in Turkey, and if it is about 100,000, yes, they should prepare for it. I mean, but they should prepare for anything. I think due to the current developments of the law, I will say that it's a very low chance that we'll expect more than a virtual presence here.
Mm,
But who knows? I mean, the of course the payment service companies and etc. They have much more requirements because they need more security
of
in that
course.
aspect. But for the game companies, I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think a virtual presence will most likely be sufficient because it's the same law with the social media providers, and social media providers just open up a virtual presence, and it was sufficient. I think it will be the same for the game, but so they should at least be ready to how to establish a company here and what they should do about it. And um, the rating system, I can't say anything about it because we don't know the details about the rating system. It will be regulated secondary legislation. So they
Mhm.
might say this uh, if, I mean, if there is a globally acclaimed authority that makes the rating, they may accept it. We don't know about it yet. Maybe they will accept PG ratings.
Yeah,
If they,
that's a curious one that I don't think we dug into a
Mhm.
lot. What if the ratings conflict? Because I know that we saw this with Sims 4, I believe, where it's typically I think it's rated T for teen almost everywhere, but in Russia, it got rated 18 plus, adult only. Uh, we're probably going to see the same sort of split here, right? So is is a platform like Steam going to have to make a judgment call when it displays the rating? Are we going to have to be jurisdictionally keyed to what the demographic is? Like if I'm a Turkish gamer and I'm searching on Steam, is Steam going to have to reflect the Turkish rating versus the one from ESRB or PGI? PEGI?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, we don't have the details about it,
Of course.
but
We'll find out
uh,
when it shakes out.
yes, but I think nonetheless it should be, it should nonetheless feature the rating uh, in this. I mean, we have it is forbidden. It is prohibited. It is forbidden for the platform to publish a game that doesn't have any rating. So at least we know that a rating should be included. So that rating should be visible. I mean, how it will be visible, we don't know. Maybe they will just require at the beginning of the game, like in a
Mhm.
screen, or just platforms giving the rating of the game will be sufficient. We don't know, but uh, we will need to see this rating specified for Turkey, I think. Um, but yes, we don't know if we will accept the PG rating or not, or they will accept other rating systems, or we will bring our own rating system. I don't know about it.
There's no one who's been announced as the new ratings are who will be
No, the
the one
rating details will be identified later on.
secondary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
secondary
yeah.
legislation. But if I make a reference to the other laws, we have a rating system in the media law.
Mhm.
So our media authority, which is radio and television, supervisory board, the next something
Yeah,
like that, the English translation, and and they have a rating.
like Office.
Also a rating office taken association, and they make the ratings, and Turkey has different ratings system than the rest, and the media content, they need to show this ratings before starting with the media, and in the feature sections, like for instance in Turkish Netflix, see this Turkey specific ratings up above. So it changes depending on the country. I think they may require same thing, and they may require different rating systems, and they will not
Fascinating.
accept others. I think so.
It makes sense that they would leverage the pre-existing association to do the ratings as opposed to creating an entire new one or lean on an international one that may or may not include all of the
Mhm.
priorities that they wanna include. Okay, so for a game developer talking to a publisher, we want a representative appointment responsibility. That's them picking a representative or having physical presence in Turkey. We would want them to consider what the rating system is going to look like and adjudicate any conflicts that would happen between the different rating systems across the world. What about age verification implementation? Who owns that? Is that a publisher responsibility or is that a game developer responsibility?
It's a game developer responsibility. They will need to establish the rating. The publishers only prohibited to publish the games that don't have any ratings. That's all. I
Mhm.
mean, they are required to publish the games only that having a rating, and yes, it's like this. But there, as for the latest information, the latest version of the law, the if a game doesn't have any rating, it will automatically have a considered an 18 plus rating. So I think
Right.
the platforms may publish any game in that sense, but it will be shown as 18 plus. Yeah.
Generally, I when it comes to age verification, I'm sorry to harp on age verification all the time. It's been on my mind for the past couple of months. We rely a lot on platforms to host the technology that conducts the age verification for us. Now, this isn't always true. Obviously, if I have my own social media website that I am running, right, then it's my responsibility to make sure that the age verification controls are embedded within
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
If you're going through Discord or even Steam, typically their age cutoff, at least in the United States, is 13 years old. Like you have to be 13 or older in order to access the platform. And if you're younger than that, then that's when we look into parental authorization. Similarly, if you're publishing a game on Steam, you might rely on Steam's parental authorization mechanics to trigger. But this calculus quickly changes if you are self-publishing. If you're releasing it on something like Itch or you have your own digital content that you want people to download as an executable file, all of this would change the determination as to whether or not you're the one that needs to provide those verification services. Otherwise, otherwise, most people are going to rely on those platforms. Do you think that that's a fair interpretation under this law? Verna, or are we still
Um,
ensuring that every person who releases a game on Steam also has their age verification settings set up for their individual games?
I don't think there will be age verification for this, but there will only be a rating system. That is all. But there will have some parental control clauses in it. I think it is about mostly giving parents the control over what their children play instead of blocking the access all over, like in the social media platforms. So I think, I mean, the parental control tools must allow to check the account details, and the purchasing, renting, and subscription must require parental approval. And these type of mechanisms should be included in all game platforms and publishers, which is not on the developers, but it's on the platforms and the publishers. And that's about it. For social media platforms, it is interesting that the age verification is not about parental control, but it's like blocking the service all over. Like,
Right, can't access unless you're over 16 for Australia, right?
yes, like it's like the same for 15 in Turkey, but you can't
Right.
access the social media if you are, um, below 15.
Now,
So, yeah.
slight tangent here, just the slightest of tangents. Kids found a way. Children find a way to get past these kind of security measures,
Mhm.
either by using photos of their relatives or photos even from the video games themselves and passing themselves off as an adult. How do you expect Turkey to enforce a 15 and under ban? Are we looking at device logged ID management, like we kind of talked about earlier in this conversation?
Well, it's discussed that they will provide it with the e-government system, like I said, the verification devices. And
Mhm.
currently in the law, it says that the social media provider needs to have proper tools to verify ages. So I don't know how they will
On
do it,
them.
but they will have proper tools. They must have proper tools to provide, determine ages and etc. Yeah,
And,
verify ages. Yeah.
there are like we had expressed with, appointing a representative, there are, of course, other third parties that you can reach out to who do these kind of age verification services. Also, if you feel particularly up to it, you can also ask your lawyer if if this is something they can help suss out for you as well. But oftentimes, you'll find that the path of least exposure is when you're working with a third party to manage these kind of system flows, similar to how you would use Stripe or Square or another payment processor to handle financial information. It's just another data point that you would otherwise have to collect that you don't really have any business collecting.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
um, that reminds me of drinking water.
We'll all hydrate for a moment. We've been talking for a while.
Yes.
So, speaking of talking for a while,
Yes,
we
we
went.
don't have any questions, it seems.
Oh, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. We can finish early if we really want to. But today you joined us so we could talk about the Turkish gaming law and discuss like comparative frameworks that have been happening all around the world. We've been seeing a real movement towards increased regulation, especially for children who are participating online. Sometimes that's in the way of age verification, sometimes it's an outright ban. The rate throttling, I think, was has been the most fascinating aspect of Turkish gaming law, and I'm really curious to see how that plays out when people start getting fines or start getting throttled, because that'll truly determine whether or not this enforcement does have teeth and whether people are willing to participate in it. We didn't talk as much about content moderation as I wanted to, but just for just for the purposes of the webinar, content moderation is extremely wily, and I would encourage anybody who's looking into it to also look for a third party that can help them suss that out too.
Yes, about content moderation. Um, I mean, for Turkish law, we can again we will need to wait for secondary legislations, which was the same for the advertisement law as well before, but I think it will be unavoidable. I mean, I can if like it is said in the proposal that the main reason of this for the protection of children and protection of family, protection of children, etc., etc. So I don't think that it will just be limited with the rating system. I think there will, just like in the advertisement or the media law, before there are also some media content that is restricted to be published. I think that there will be some restrictions for games. We will see about it. And in that aspect, content moderation is very interesting. The games will now be within the scope of the internet law. So this means that if a game content, even a game page on Steam, is considered violation of personal rights, or it is, it has some content that is against the national security and the national health and etc. For instance, and for instance, we have Article 8, which prohibits content that encourages gambling, drugs, and prostitution. So I think after the law is enacted, because it will be within the scope of the internet law, we may see some content restrictions on erotic games, and also the drug game. So goodbye to sex with Stalin.
Oh no, Grand Theft Auto. What a blow.
I don't think I don't know Grand Theft Auto will be banned, because it takes guts to ban Grand Theft Auto. But I think um but it's possible. There were some games that you will, a drug dealer simulator, for instance, it may be banned. Who knows?
Oh no, drug dealer simulator. Rip.
Okay, so we can see that. We can see that after the law is published. Um, in terms of content moderation, even if you don't have the secondary legislations, that's the thing. Because now we will know that the games will be within the scope of the internet law. So how is content moderation in games in US and other countries, if you looked into it?
So content moderation is broadly under Section 230, again, of the Telecommunications Act. And liability only attaches once you start moderating. And if you then fail to moderate after that. We try to remove the political leading bias out of content moderation, but with the advent of AI, I'm seeing a lot of third parties emerge that are leveraging AI to do that content moderation lift. Otherwise, I don't know. If you've ever played like Halo or any other kind of live play, immediately the first thing that happens is is that some 12-year-old tells you that you're not good at the game and more expletives than I'm willing to repeat here on this webinar. But I I would stress that most moderation decisions should just be bound by an ethos that the company already has. That's typically through community guidelines, if not regulations outright, but that generally informs what the practice will be and give reasonable rights to people who are engaging.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense actually. And also, other thing is, um, I mean, there is a risk that one of the risks that is mentioned with the enactment of this law is the how can you say, self restriction or something like that. Some game publishers self restrict themselves publishing to a country. For instance, due to political climates in
Oh,
Turkey,
sure.
some game developers like Don't Not didn't publish a game in Turkey. Specifically, what I don't remember what was the name of it but there was a trans man in it
That's
as the
quite similar.
protagonist.
Oh, I see. So there was political nature to the game that then prevented it from being published in Turkey. I see.
Well,
That's
there was no restriction in Turkish law for not to publish it, but they did it anyway. It's same with the Transparent TV show in Prime, which is an awesome show, by the way. But the Amazon just didn't publish it in Turkey because they were, I don't know, afraid that it will be removed or they will be subject to some backlash or something. I don't know. But these laws, in order for risk management, can cause publishers to self-restrict themselves in publishing some games in Turkey, which may cause a significant reduction in Turkish game library in Steam.
similar to China's PIPL too, I believe. Quite a few businesses chose not to actually have a physical presence in China because of the way that their regulators are able to go on site and request your documentation and hold your representative there personally liable for any of the misrepresentations that the company issued. So it certainly is a risk strategy to curtail any exposure that other countries might obligate you to. And it's not always something that, game developers have control over, but certainly platforms, publishers could consider not looking at these locations entirely, and that just means less cultural impact in the areas that are releasing these laws. That said, I think everybody finds a way through one VPN or another. And maybe it's not entirely feasible for Turkish players to do just that, but I think that we're going to see a fair amount of people both complying and trying to circumvent the regulations as they arise. So 6 months left to go. If any of you are thinking about what you can do to prepare for the Turkish gaming regulation, I think we could come up with a concise list of bullet points, but I'll start with the first one. Monitor the text. It's getting published. Make sure that all of the information that we told you here is actually confirmed and accurate there because things change wildly and over a matter of months. Did you have a tip, Berna, that you wanted to give? And then I'll come back in with another.
Yes, the most important tip is what you said. They should confirm what we said with the latest version of the law because there are some changes, definitely. But these changes were not published yet. We're just hearing it from the associations and the enactment commissions as well. But we will see the final text and the official gazette. Um, and another tip is just to get ready because you will have 6 months, and because you will have six
Identify
months,
those gaps.
yes, identify those gaps, do the gap analysis, and identify what you need, and If you're gonna, I don't know, take a legal service, take a legal service. If you're gonna just look at how to establish a company abroad, just do it. Or if you need to make a risk report or a gap analysis report to your headquarters, do it. Um, so just get the red tape out of it, like the purchasing and reporting part, and just focus on the compliance when it comes out. Yeah.
Make sure to budget for the representative services that you're going to need in Turkey and any age verification obligations that you have to comply with. Those tend to be pretty expensive, especially if you're going through a third party who's going to do it all for you. But there are solutions that you can create yourself, and it's important that you map those out and really figure out what works for you and your business. And finally, make sure that you review any existing agreements that you have with publishers or platforms regarding their liability and exposure around these obligations, because whatever they stand up means that you likely won't have to stand up your own thing. So if it's already isolated in their terms of service or your agreement with them, that'd be the best place to check. And if it's not in the agreement, ask them. I'm sure they would love to love to hear your burning concerns about what their obligations are internationally.
Exactly. Recommendation for any Turkish developers that just be ready for it, and for the agreements with the publishers, you should make sure that it covers the Turkish legal requirements that you need to comply with, especially in the rating systems, and get their confirmation that they will comply with the applicable law in the agreements, so you won't be in a hard spot.
And with that, I think we're ready to conclude. So I'll do so by mentioning who I am yet again. Hi, I'm Tess. I'm founding attorney of Clause and Effect. I help out content creators, game studios, and tech platforms with their legal needs for making things in a world that is actively hostile to people making things. If you have any questions, my consults are free. There are ways to contact me. Go to the website. That's the easiest place. If you're on LinkedIn, my name's right there. Feel free to shoot me a connection request. And thank you, Berna, for having me on. Who the heck are you?
Thank you. I'm Berna Aytaç. I'm the head of TMT Law Department of Özay Law Firm. We are providing clients with every technology, media, and telecommunications. My team, especially, of course, my team provides any technology, media, and telecommunication law needs, going from the gaming law to payment systems to data privacy, whatever you think of. Because I'm a huge tech nerd, and I'm also a gaming nerd. Which is I usually occasionally stream, and you can, if you find, I will keep it hidden here. Check yourself.
Nice.
Well, you can find my streaming platforms. Feel welcome. Feel welcome to watch it. It will be in Turkish. And you can join in and have a conversation with me anytime, any moments. I'm not a boring lawyer there, more like a swearing, ADHD, crazy gamer there. Different personality.
Well, this was really fun. I'd love to do
Yeah,
more of this in the future. And again, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
thank you,
I
Tess, for
wish,
joining, agreeing to join. That was really fun. It's always very fun to communicate and conversate with you. And this has been a really fun webinar. Thank you.
yeah, of course. Let's do it again. We'll do it again. Less hiccups next time.
Yay.
Good luck out there, everybody. New Turkish regulations coming your way. I hope you're ready. I hope this helped you get ready.